Hello, my name is Thomas Blue. I'm the choir director at Rochester Adams High School and Van Hoosen Middle School. You see, my life was an unexpected life in choral music. You see, I never dreamed that I would have become a musician, a clarinetist, a singer. I never would have dreamed that I would have gone on to college to study music. You see, I was told to become a doctor, lawyer, go into a profession where your intellect wouldn't be wasted. You see, I never dreamed that I'd become a teacher in choral music. You see, I wanted to become a high school band director. You see, I never would have dreamed that I would have been teaching middle school and high school choral music here in the Rochester Community Schools for 34 years. As a college musician, you see, I wasn't supposed to even go to college. The odds were against me. Once there, I thought I knew it all. And then one day, Prof. Hoosen called me into his office. He says, "What do you want to be when you graduate from Roberts Wesleyan?" I said, "I want to be a high school band director." He says, "No, you don't." He says, "You're going to be a choir director." How did he know? My first job and interview was at West Middle School right across town, teaching choral music. And I had to make the phone call. "Hello, Prof. Hoosen, Tom Blue. You were right. And by the way, how did you know?" I was at West Middle School for 19 years. While there, I earned a master's degree in music education from Michigan State University. Go Green. I completed all of the coursework for a PhD in music education and choral conducting as well. After 19 years, I was hired by Diane Flack to come and teach at Rochester Adams High School. You see, my dear friend, Dr. Tim Lentz, had retired. I am currently in my 15th year at Rochester Adams, and during that time, I was asked to come to Van Hoosen as well, teach choral music there, and I'm in my 10th year at Van Hoosen. If you access the syllabus in Synergy or the course handbook in your students' Google Classroom, you can see my teaching schedule for the week. I do have office hours. I've set those up on Monday and Wednesdays from 2 to 3. I'm also going to try to make myself available if any students would like private lessons during this time of remote learning. What makes us successful? Well, it's not just the concerts, not just the training of future teachers in our classroom. It's not just the singing of the national anthem or the spring musical or combining performances with other ensembles throughout Rochester and singing for the community. It's not just the choral festivals or the solo ensemble festivals, but it's performing music of different cultures, different languages. It's the study of music and art. It's the study of our voice, how it works, how it grows, how it develops. You see, we learn the vocabulary of music. We learn to read music. Some of my students even go on to compose music of their own. We participate as an active member of a team, a singing team, if you will. We gain self-confidence as independent singers, independent musicians, and independent people. I do my very best to try and include all of the national standards. And you can access those national standards on my course syllabus, and it's in the choir handbook. During a normal course of events or a normal year, concert participation is a mandatory part of what we do in secondary music. But due to the pandemic, we at Rochester Community Schools are unclear as to what performances are going to look like this year. As I get more guidance from Rochester Community Schools, I will keep you informed. It is my sincerest hope that we'll be able to perform safely at some point during this year. For those of you that love us and support us. In the event that we return to an in-person learning format, the class may have the opportunity to change to become a more traditional choral classroom. And at that point, I'll send out an updated syllabus, and included will be concert and performance expectations and opportunities for us to be a part of the community. You may be asking about my grading procedure. Well, it's outlined in detail in the course handbook and the syllabus, but I base my grades on a point system. The class will require your students' participation. Therefore, your grade is based on participation in class, both daily and concert performances, written assignments, singing assignments, and listening assignments, musical quizzes, tests, semester exams, and I love to have my students do creative projects. You see, creative projects are what really allow the students to engage in their intelligences. You see, I've done a lot of research and presentations and written several articles on the multiple intelligence theory and Howard Gardner's work at Project Zero, and I try to include as much of that in my classroom teaching as I can. Students can either be linguistic smart, logical mathematical smart, spatial, bodily kinesthetic smart, musical smart, interpersonal smart, intrapersonal smart, and naturalist smart. And I try to give opportunities for my students, even though we study music on a daily basis, to use each of those areas. And each person, each one of us, has the potential to develop a small portion of each one of those intelligence areas. Some of us go on to develop intelligence areas to a greater degree, like myself in music. You may ask me, why do I teach music? Well, it's not because I expect my students to major in music, though many of them have. It's not because I expect my students to play or sing all of their life, though many of them have continued to sing in community choruses around the state of Michigan. Why do I teach music? Not so my students can relax, but it does give them an opportunity to develop a different part of the brain. Why do I teach music? Not so my students can have fun. However, we do. We have lots of fun daily, and sometimes it's even surrounded by pizza. But I teach music because I want my students to be human. I want my students to recognize beauty. I want my students to be sensitive. I teach music so my students will be closer to the infinite world, the one that's beyond this one. I teach music so my students will have something to cling to when times get tough, such as COVID-19. I teach music so my students will have more compassion, be more gentle, have more goodness, in short, more life. Of what great value will it be to make a prosperous living unless my students know how to live it? My goal for each one of my students is to nurture their talent, their gifts, to inspire passionate excellence in their performance, and bring a sense of beauty into their daily lives. That was from my colleagues at the University of California, Los Angeles. You see, I think often about my former students like Megan, who's currently teaching vocal music in a high school in Michigan, or Sarah, who's also teaching vocal music here in Michigan, or my students that go on to grace the stage of Broadway, and we've had several. You see, I think about my current students like Andre, Maggie, Rachel, Capono, Jacob, Bella, Maria, and so many of the other students that I haven't gotten to know yet. You see, it's not just about K-12 music education and choir. It's about art. It's about being a family. It's about teaching creativity. It's about teaching kids to think artistically. It's about teaching problem solving through the arts. It's about something beyond what I can express to you and to my students daily. You see, I think about all of my students because I feel obligated to them, to give them an experience like I had, or better yet, an artistic experience that will stay with them for a lifetime. My colleague at Westminster Choir College, James Jordan, writes in his book, The Musician's Soul, that music is the binding stuff of community. The community is nourished by music or the grace of great things. Without the great things, community is reduced to inter and interpersonal relationships that are usually built on outside perceptions rather than soulfulness of all those involved. Music is the vehicle by which souls individually examined and explored speak to the world at large. Human beings communicating directly with one another through great things speak very powerfully with one voice. That voice will be characterized by the sublime beauty of all of the elements of music. My favorite poet, Robert Frost, and actually this portion of the poem has become a motto of mine. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I, Thomas Blue, took the one that was less traveled by. And that has made all the difference. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you for allowing your kids to be with me on a daily basis.